You're listening to Texas Matters from Texas Public Radio. We're airing stories about Mother's Day written by mothers.
Evangeline Perez, Alaniz. My Quest for Knowledge, a Mother's Day Tribute. I remember my mother, Angela, and all that she did for me while growing up in Three Rivers, Texas. I believe that my mother was more intelligent than the average person because she could read and write in Spanish and English with very little formal education. She had to drop out of school in the first grade and work to help support her family because her father had died. When my mother had her own children, she worked all day as a cook in a local restaurant, but always made time for us. She was never too tired to tell us stories in the evenings. My cousins, sisters, and I would sit outside and listen to numerous fairy tales and scary stories, which were told all in Spanish. Blanca Flor, Snow White, Maria Cenicienta, Cinderella, and Espejito, Espejito, Mirror, Mirror were a few of them. One of the chilling tales was about La Llorona, the weeping woman, who was rumored to have drowned her own children and reportedly roamed the countryside, stealing other people's children. My mother's enthusiasm and expressiveness in storytelling kept me yearning to hear more and more. What wonderful quality time that was for us. And those stories had life lessons that are a part of me to this day. Like my mother, I also loved telling stories to my children. I remember telling and retelling some of their favorites. My son, Lee, still reminds me about telling him and his sisters scary stories when they were little. Also of importance to my mother was religion and faith in God, but she had an open mind. We grew up attending the Catholic Church, yet she would let us visit other churches. My cousins, sisters, and I especially enjoyed attending the Pentecost Church. One of the families would take all 7 of us to their ranch and feed us a delicious homemade meal. We also learned how country folk lived. It was an exhilarating experience, getting water from an old-fashioned pump. Another church I visited was the Jehovah's Witnesses Kingdom Hall when I was in junior high school. I really liked visiting that church because the preacher's daughter, Carol, and I got to wear high-heel shoes, and I felt like a grown-up. Everyone was very nice there, and I believe that's when my mother started reading the Bible regularly. I also let my children visit other denominations when they were in school. Sometimes they would attend the Methodist or Baptist churches with their classmates. Just as my siblings and I, my children got to decide what religion they wanted to belong to. My mother and my half-sister Leonore handmade our clothes from flour sacks. We also learned how to do our share of household chores. One of my favorite tasks was washing dishes. Can you believe that? I also liked to hang out my petticoats on the line after we had washed and starched them. In my house, I designated Saturdays as the day to clean the house. Jackie, my eldest daughter, taught her brother and sister to sing along with Mary Poppins as they cleaned. Their chores were to make up their beds and feed the fish and turtles. Unlike my mother, I raised my 3 children by myself. Their father left our home when they were ages 5, 2, and 3 months old. Being a single parent was indeed challenging, but I was determined to have a happy life with my children. I was able to be positive in a difficult situation because I had been raised in a loving and caring environment. It was easy for me to play dolls with my daughters, but not as easy to play sports with my son. Thank God for Little League baseball and soccer leagues. My children also helped in planning meals and buying groceries on a modest budget. Whatever it was, we were always together as a family, and I value that time we shared together. Along with all the good memories of my mother, I cannot forget a very sad time for her. Caring for her daughter as she suffered with cancer, lymphoma, was very painful. My sister Penny was diagnosed when she and I were attending Texas A&I University in Kingsville. She underwent 2 years of treatment and passed away in 1973 at age 21. I, too, had to see my daughter, Jennifer, go through so much pain and undergo a difficult 2-year treatment. She She had osteosarcoma, bone cancer, in her right humerus. Passed away in 1996 at age 17. I derived my strength through God's will and my profound love for my daughter from God, and thus was able to care for her until her final days, as my mother had done years earlier for my sister. My mother definitely did a lot for her family. She instilled a love of literature in me at a very young age. My mother valued education, but never complained that she had to teach herself. I believe that her dedication to education inspired me to begin my own quest for knowledge, and that is why I chose to make teaching my profession. Most important, my mother taught me to enjoy life, work hard, and to be grateful for what I have.